So we get there and I'm like, all right, God, make it obvious, make it clear. And I'm like getting nothing. So finally, one night after going to that orphanage, I was like, God, if you want me to adopt, make this thing on my back go away.
Welcome to When You Look, where ordinary people share their extraordinary experiences, and you get to decide, was it coincidence or God? Hey, Josh. Thanks a bunch for being on When You Look. Great to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Mick. It's great to be here.
Yeah, awesome for sure, man. Well, before we get started into your story, since everybody that comes on When You Look has a great story to share, our audience for sure wants to know a little bit more about you. So tell us a little bit about you.
All right. So I'm Josh. Been married for 21 years. Have 4 kids. And actually, 2 of my kids are from a previous marriage. And I have 2 with my current wife that we've been together for 21 years. I love doing missions, doing outreach, and was excited to hear that you wanted to hear a story.
Right on. Well, that's the whole point here at When You Look. So great stories to be shared. So let's jump right into it. Give us a sense for the backstory and sort of what led up to the specific story, if you will. And we'll be glad to listen. Fire away.
Yeah. So doing missions and outreach, I always felt like you're kind of always asking God the question, like, what is the shoe? Am I doing the right thing? And I think when you asked me to do this, I was kind of like, this one I'm still trying to figure out. I think this is a kind of perfect story. So as I share it, maybe others will be like, oh, that's definitely, crazy, or like, dude, that's just coincidence. So it goes back to, I would say I'd had a time where my parents used to go to Niger, Africa with Effective Ministries, and they did it for years. And if anything, there was a little bit of like, I was like, why are they always doing that? Like, I have my kids. Why are they going over there? What's going on? And no interest at all in what they were doing. But I did an outreach in New York. It was a mission trip. And I felt like God was saying, this is what you need to do more of. So I said, anything you ask me to do, I'm going to do it. Well, I get back from New York and get a call from the founder of the Effective Ministries link, Michael Thaler. And he says, hey, I want you to go to Niger. And I was like, oh, great. This is my parents' thing. I don't want to do my parents' thing, but I just had made this promise, whatever you ask, I'll do. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to do it so I can check it off the list and figure out what I'm really supposed to be doing. So I go to Niger and fall in love. We're helping out at orphanages. We're doing construction projects. We're partnering with their churches. And I'm like, it's a whole different culture, different way of life. And I fall in love, completely shocked. That's not what I was anticipating going into this. So as time goes on, I do multiple more trips to Niger, and I'm doing other outreaches and other things too. But I noticed a lot of people that go on these trips are adopting. And so here I am, 2 kids from a previous marriage, 2 of my own. I'm like, maybe all of this was because I'm supposed to adopt. But I'm seeing some struggles going on with some of these transition. It's a challenge when you bring a kid in. So I'm like, I don't know. I need clear direction that this is from God if we're supposed to adopt. So I'm like, all right, well, the wife spends a lot of time with the kids. So if she says, yes, I definitely want to do this, then we'll adopt. So I was like, this is easy. I'm just putting it on her. So I go to my wife. She's like, I don't know, because she's seen some of the same things with these families. They bring a kid in. There's lots of adjustment. There's all kinds of stuff. She's like, I don't know. Like, she's like, you're going to clearly need to hear from God. So I'm going to tell you a little bit that was going on, that I had going on medically, which is going to make some more of this make sense as we move forward. But I'd had this small lump on my back. It started as about the size of a marble was when I noticed it. Got to about the size of a golf ball, so about half of a golf ball sticking out of my lower back. And my wife was like, "You need to go to the doctor, get this checked. This looks horrible." And I was like, "Well, it doesn't hurt, doesn't bother me." So finally, we're going in there, and I'm like, "All right, like this is it. I'm dead. It's over." And they're like, they check it all out. They're like, "It's like a fatty tissue tumor. If it doesn't hurt, if it's not getting in the way of sitting or moving, like just leave it alone." So it's like, okay. So this half the size of a golf ball, lower back kind of off to the side, has been there for 3 years or so. And um I'm heading to Niger on a mission trip. And this is kind of when we're making the decision of like, are we going to move forward with this or not? And the girl that we were even considering was the sister to a girl that had been adopted by some of our friends.
Hmm. Okay.
So her name's Nafisa. So we were going, and my wife had kind of hung this back on me now. She's like, "Oh no, you're the man of the house. You have to have clear direction from God." So I'm like, "Oh man, I thought I was going to throw it on her. She threw it back on me." So we get there, and I'm like, "All right, God, make it obvious, make it clear." And I'm like getting nothing. It's like, I don't know, like make the sun shine a certain way. Like I just want to see like the angel saying, "All right, proceed with the adoption." So finally, one night, after going to that orphanage, I was like, I'm kind of almost saying this like almost getting me off the hook. Like, cause I'm like, I'm not sure if we're ready for all of this. I'm like, God, if you want me to adopt, make this thing on my back go away. Like I said, it had been sitting stagnant for 3 years, hadn't grown anymore, hadn't changed, hadn't done anything.
Yeah.
So wake up the next morning, nothing. And I actually told one of the members on the team, like, hey, I'm going to say this crazy prayer. I just kind of want you to know, like, so when afterwards, if something does happen, I'll have a witness. And they're like, sure, whatever, man. Like, kind of like rolling their eyes, like you're stupid. I get back home, nothing had happened. We were still like, I don't know, maybe it's not the right time. God will show us. I hadn't even told my wife about my prayer in Africa. So it was about a week after I get back, and it's all of a sudden like all of this oozing coming out of my back. So not to get too graphic, I'm not sure how you rate these things, Mick, but it was like, this is horrible. This, nasty ooze coming out of my back. And within a week, this thing completely goes away. So my wife's like, oh my gosh, that thing on your back, it all cleared up, and we're putting gauze pads on it, doing all that stuff. And I was like, I've got to tell you something. When I was in Africa and we were trying to figure out if we were going to adopt, I told God if he removed that lump, that I knew that was a sign we were supposed to move forward. And she's like, no way. So I was like, now I feel like I'm going to be disobedient if I don't proceed with this. So we call social, like I don't even know what it's called, an adoption agency. And they have a social service person that comes in. They do like a home check. We start filling out forms. We're getting um, all of her information straight. So there's tons of paperwork, and there's quite a bit of an expense. So we're investing, into this dollar wise and time wise, going through all of these different steps, and ultimately, um, we get to this point where we need this one document. Now, Nafisa's mother is still alive. She's in and out of jail and has many pending cases. But since her mother was alive, she had to sign off on a document, which she had done before for Nafisa's older sister.
Hmm.
So we were thinking this is going to be no problem. And ultimately, she wouldn't sign. She wanted some sort of payment, which you can't do. That's child trafficking. So it was like, we can't pay you. We want to adopt. We want to give her a good home. So, get her out of the orphanage because her mom was alive even though she was in an orphanage. So, um, the law that happens in Niger is once you turn 16, um, adoption's off the table. Like they don't do adoptions past the age of 16. She aged out, so we never got the document that we needed to proceed with this. During this whole process, though, we had missionaries there that we were tutoring her in English so that when she got here, she'd be able to speak English better. And she ended up moving in with the missionaries um, that we were having tutor her in English, and they became kind of her parents there in Niger. And we ended up as she got older, she was going to university, which we would call college, but they call it university. Um, so my other daughter was getting close to going off to college. So I was like, how much is this university thing? So they were like, oh, it's like 2,300. I was like, a month, a semester? They're like, no, a year. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm definitely going to do this. So since then, we've been in a relationship where we see Nafisa. She's in university. She's doing great. The missionary couple that she's with actually is now back in the U.S. And she's 18, but she's still living in their house with another couple. Not in the orphanage anymore. Calls all the time just to check on us. Hey, how you doing? She calls me Uncle Josh. Uncle Josh, how you doing? Um, so we just have this great relationship, but none of that, her getting the tutoring, us paying for the university, her moving in with the missionaries. Like I kept thinking that I was adopting because we needed a kid, but it wasn't about us getting another child. God had plans for her. And so that's why I feel like it wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't an accident that we went through all of this. But it's like one of those things where my intention was an adoption, but that's not how it worked out. Um, so I am still looking forward. We're working on trying to get her passport and working for her to be able to come over at least during the summer. And she's still in university, and that's currently where we're at.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, Josh, thanks for sharing, man. Appreciate
Yeah,
how you got a little emotional there towards the end of the story because it's clear how much you care for her and your desire to love her, despite the fact that the actual adoption formally and legally couldn't happen, didn't happen, that type of thing. But what a wonderful story. So I wonder what Allison's thinking was. You talked about it. She's like, "Hey, I didn't tell you this, honey." But, you know what I mean? And she's like, "You got to be kidding," or she said something along those lines, right?
when we first got back, I was like, yeah, I was like, I didn't get a clear sign. So she's thinking like, okay, we're not proceeding. And then it was about a week. So then I was like, oh wait, hold on, I got to take that back. Like I am getting a
Yeah.
sign.
Yeah. And then it's like, how did she handle that?
Well, I think because both of us were just so like feeling like God was putting on our heart, but we, you want to keep your kids safe, and so it was like we don't want to, ruin our other kids' lives because we think we're doing something and we didn't want it to be showy. I feel like sometimes people do things like that. So I think we were just we were cautious, like wanting to do what God wanted us to do, but also like we don't want to do any of it for the wrong reason. So if that's kind of where we're at. Like, is this the right reason? We're really questioning ourselves. Like, what? It wasn't whether or not helping her out was the right thing. It was whether or not um, we were doing it the right way and at the right time for the right reasons.
Yeah, I track with you on that. And that's then it sounds like what really launched you into moving forward with the actual adoption process. Because you had clarity, at least at that point, together, let's do the right thing.
Right. We were
That
like,
all still sort
we're
of
gonna
worked its
get her
way forward.
educated, we're gonna get her speaking English, all of that stuff, and then you've got this a year of building this relationship because that's how long all this paperwork process, you know, going on, and I should have said I'm getting ready to cry, but when I went to go visit her room in Niger at the missionary's house, she had a picture of me and Allison and Savannah and Jacob, like it didn't matter to her, like we were her family. Because that was like a year after all of that, so that hit me big. Um,
Mm.
so
Praise
that was
God.
cool too. Yeah.
Praise
Yep.
God.
Yeah.
Uncle Josh. Praise God.
Yeah, and the cool thing was, like, because you're going over there like, "Oh, no, it failed." She's gonna be like, "I thought I was getting out of this orphanage." Like, she's gonna be upset with us, and then when I saw that, it was like, like, she could care less. It was like, "Oh, yeah, y'all are my American family, like, thank y'all for university. Thank you for English." Like I said, she calls and checks in, not all the time, but once every 2 or 3 months. "Hey, how you doing? When are you coming back? Make sure you let me know so we can see you when you're back." So, it's great.
Yeah, it sounds like there's real meaningful, loving relationship there. Let's go to sort of a spot that we go to with all of our guests, and that really is two kind of final questions. The first of which is, was it coincidence or was it God?
Yeah, I would have to say it has to be God. I mean, the medical end of it, just when you look at that, like, this had set completely stagnant for 3 years. At first, it had grown, but then it had got to a place where it just stayed. Nothing was shifting, nothing was moving, nothing, you know. So for the timing of when I said a prayer, and it was just kinda like one of those things that kinda popped in my mind. It was like, "Okay, how about this thing on my back? Make that disappear." Like, I don't even know why I would have said that. Like, it wasn't bothering me. It really wasn't a problem, but it was just like, almost like, all right, I will know for sure. I think that's why I threw it out there, or maybe God just prompted me like, "Okay, this is what I'm gonna do." I don't know, but yeah, I think it's gotta be God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so then the last question that we always ask is, what's been the impact on your life, or what's changed as a result of this experience with God?
Yeah, so I think one of the big things for me is, kinda through outreach mission work, I've always kinda been in, like, 100%, um, kind of when I've had somebody that's, like, needed help. So I've had a couple instances where some friends or acquaintances that you meet, they're going through a hard time, whether it's divorce, drugs, and you try to get in and try to make a good influence. And I would invest so much time in them. It would become the center of my life. And then when it fails, it makes you feel like, "Oh, I failed." And it always put, like, how my feelings were. And I think through this experience, I've seen, like, God will use us when it's not about us. So it's like, all right, you didn't get an adoption. You didn't get to go to church and be like, "Hey, here's my daughter from Africa we adopted." No, you got to help her out with university. You got to help her to learn English. So for me, it relieves some of the pressure of when you're engaging with other people, having to see the result that you want to see, to just do it because it's the right thing to do. So I would say that's probably one of the biggest differences that I've seen from that.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, really appreciate the story, the insight, the authenticity with which you shared it as well. So, been an awesome pleasure having you on. Thank you a ton. Really appreciate you sharing your story here on When You Look. We'll chat
Thank you.
soon. Was it coincidence or God? You decide for yourself, but I believe you just heard a story for His glory. When You Look is powered by stories just like this, and yours could be next. Go to whenyoulook.com/be a guest or use the link in the description below. Drop us a comment and share this episode with somebody that needs it. Until next time, thanks a bunch for listening and watching, and God bless.